Greetings! This is one of the videos I spoke about before that was still in post-production when I had to leave for Spring Run 2024. As such, some of the information may be a little bit dated. Since the principles discussed remain relevant, if not the specifics, I'm releasing it anyways while I am in post for the newer videos that I am doing during this production run that I'm talking to you from right now. Why does it sound like a bit from Spaceballs and movies? Anyway, enjoy. Greetings and felicitations again, my fellow Perceptive Purple people. I wanted to take a few moments to talk with you about all of the recent protests on college campuses regarding the verifiable plight of the civilians stuck in Gaza and the overkill methods apparently being employed by the government of Israel upon them, and how disappointed I am in how these protesters are handling themselves. Before I begin my rant, I'd like to point out that I am only referring to certain protesters on both sides of the issue and not the larger group of protesters that have remained peaceful, as our founding fathers have supported since before we were even a country. To this larger group of brother and sister Americans making their voices heard in peaceful support of their side of this issue, on whichever side this rant does not apply to you. On simpler terms, if the shoe doesn't fit you, please don't try to wear it. Okay, first, the supportive stuff. Although Hamas is very much to blame for the current state of combat operations, and Israel absolutely has the right to defend itself and its citizens, the protesters rightly point out that this has been an intolerable situation for well over half a century and could have been, if not solved, at least ameliorated with some reasonable diplomacy. It also needs to be made clear that opposing what the Israeli government is doing to mostly civilians in the Gaza Strip is in no way related to anti-Semitism. Now, you might find a few anti-Semites within these protesters, but by virtue of the protesters' aim of human value and protection, I expect that you'll find the number to be very low. It just doesn't fit the bleeding heart liberal mold very well. However, look, I'm sorry to have to be that guy, but I'm just going to have to remind our noble protesters of a few simple facts of living within a civilized society that they seem to have forgotten in their excited emotional state. First and foremost, violence is not protesting. It is rioting, and most certainly not a constitutionally protected activity. You are there to protest a war, not fight one. Cut out all the violence, period. Enough said. Second, after watching way too many videos on these protests, both before and during breakups, I must say how disappointed I am in the levels of ignorance being shown, on both sides, towards how police get involved in these things. In spite of your supposed superior education, you all seem to be just plain ignorant little kids on how you've been acting. All this leads to the shameful reaction by some protesters to the law enforcement response. Look, no matter what your opinion of them, the police are not just a bunch of guys who decided to throw on a bunch of uniforms, get some weapons, cars, and other toys to go out and vigilantize our community just for fun. No, that would be more like the guys we saw on January 6th storming the Capitol. The fact of the matter is that your protesting, no matter how important you view the issue, impacts other citizens just trying to go about their business. Now, I realize that's kind of the point of the whole protest, but eventually your protest will have to give way to the business of the day. It's not against you or the importance of your cause, merely necessity of enforcing the rights of the greater number of your fellow citizens to go about their lives peacefully. So, when the police come out to a protest, it's not a personal thing, but pure law enforcement business. They leave their families under orders of our representative governments to go and try to quell a protest that, usually, somebody else has determined needs to be dispersed. Our law enforcement officers are simply the enforcement representatives for our own duly elected government. Hell, they might even quietly agree with your cause in private, but they're not there to stand for their own personal beliefs. Now, are they? Shouting various derogatory slurs at them is counterproductive to your cause as it makes you the aggressor, not the defender. Your attempts to provoke the police to attack you only dramatically showcases that ignorance, uncontrolled anger, and inability to maintain one's logic and self-control in a tense situation. And although it is tense, no doubt that's when you need to use more self-control and logic, not less. If you must be arrested for your cause, then, at least for your cause's sake, do so with dignity and aplomb. I mean, I don't recall Gandhi, Dr. King, Nelson Mandela, or any of those other guys using force or even foul language, for that matter, against the police that arrested them to get the people to support their cause. Do you? So obviously, don't actively resist or use any force against any law enforcement or each other, as that is a completely different ballgame than simply exercising your rights to protest, and has a high likelihood of getting you some real time, or worse, just because you got lost in the moment. And finally, please, please, please don't be like those people that are in videos making the rounds on the internet crying wolf with claims of, "You're hurting me," when they are obviously not being hurt. The protesters that do that look entitled, whiny, and just plain silly. Not the look that you want when you're trying to garner the support of the mainstream voting public to your cause. Just saying. Now, as for the issue itself, y'all are going to have to wait on that one just a little bit longer for the next episode on this subject, which I'm filming on my very next production run, so you won't have to wait very long for that. But before I go, I should remind Prime Minister Netanyahu that this is not a war that will be won with weapons, but with negotiations. And that these two proven truths that he would be wise to apply. The first of which is his people's own sayings about his plans for military success in Gaza, and the other from Capitanius Noctis, as it fits the situation Israel finds itself now. Firstly, a Yiddish saying, "Man plans, God laughs." And more directly pertinent, Mr. Netanyahu, in the end, we are not judged by what they did to us, but by what we did to them. I suggest you take heed, Mr. Netanyahu. So, what are your thoughts about this? Do you find our position reasonable, or do you have a more logical or rational idea? Do be prepared for vigorous yet polite debate, but let's hear it. As always, I'll see you in the comment section below. Till our next chat, remember to keep your balance and stay purple, people. We'll see you again real soon, and let's get America together again.